attorney from one of our Georgia chapters. I've asked Mr. Rosen to be here today just to share with us a little bit about what he does and what you might not be aware of that may be able to help you or the ones that you love. So, Joseph, are you there?
Yes, hi Kathleen, good afternoon.
Hi, thank you so much for joining us today. Tell everybody that's watching today or that will watch in the future, a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Well, again, my name is Joe Rosen, and I'm an immigration attorney. I have an immigration practice that serves clients nationwide and throughout the world. I concentrate in a few specific areas. I represent a number of professional athletes. Tends to be kids that come to the United States on tennis scholarships, golf scholarships, soccer scholarships, and then they'll get hired by local clubs to represent them. And what I'll do is I'll do the immigration work for the clubs so they allow them to hire them. About a fourth of my practice are business immigration, where if school districts want to hire school teachers, dental clinics may want to hire dentists, computer companies may want to hire engineers or IT people, I work for the company to make sure that the folks' immigration work is done appropriately so that they're hired in accordance with the law. Also, about half my practice is based on family immigration, and which really tends to be a fun area. I mean, that tends to be U.S. citizens that are marrying foreign nationals, U.S. citizens that may be adopting foreign national children, and U.S. citizens that have come here, gone to school, gotten a green card, become citizens, and they're bringing their parents in. I also, to a small degree, I work with Catholic Charities running an immigration clinic, and I get involved with some refugee and asylum cases.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. You're an amazing, amazing human being, and I'm so glad to have you on the show today. And you know, some people may be watching and they may think, I don't know anybody that has anything to do with immigration. They may be watching, they may be thinking, you know, he's in Georgia and I'm in Arizona. How can I help you? Can you practice anywhere across America?
Yeah, the practice tends to be a nationwide practice, similar to a IRS type practice. All the applications, for example, for certain categories are all filed at one or two locations in the United States. And again, I tend to have clients also not just in the U.S., but around the world.
That is wonderful. Well, share with us some tips for somebody that may be watching that may either have a loved one that or may meet somebody. They fall in love with somebody that's, you know, visiting on vacation or something. What are some of the rules or misleading thoughts that some people might have in regards to immigration law in the U.S.?
And there tend to be a lot of misconceptions about that. A lot of folks will simply say, well, if you marry a United States citizen, don't you automatically become a U.S. citizen? And it's really much more complicated than that. It's kind of a government maze. I'll have folks contact me and they'll say that they tried to do it themselves. They're 2 years down the road and they find out it was initially done wrong and they're going to be separated from their loved one even longer. The process involves a number of separate issues. Do you bring in somebody as a fiance? Do you bring in somebody by marrying them overseas? Do they come in as a tourist and then do you marry them? You may have, frequently there'll be folks that will come in and they've come in initially on a visa as a student, as an employee, and something goes wrong, they overstay their visa, and then there's a matter of, well, how do I legalize them? And in some cases, they can marry a citizen and get a green card, others they can't. Another issue that I've run into that I've worked with a number of folks with is you're here in the United States, you're dating a student, you're a student, maybe you're a 22, 23-year-old kid, you've fallen in love with a girl from France, she's in college with you, and you decide you're going to go to the Bahamas for a destination wedding. You fly to the Bahamas, you get married, you come back in, immigration says, well, what are you returning from? Well, we got married in the Bahamas. Well, you're coming in as a student. Well, yeah. Are you going to apply for a green card once you get here? Of course, we just got married. Well, we're not going to let you in as a student then. You have to go back and wait in your country for a year to have your husband petition for you. So frequently what I'll advise them is just when you enter the country, you can't enter with the intention of filing for a green card. And if you're trying to enter as a student or as a tourist with that intention, it can really create a lot of roadblocks for you. That's just one of the, many intricate situations that you have to deal with when trying to legalize your bride or your fiance.
What type of, I know some changes are underway with the Obama administration. How is that affecting immigration law these days?
Well, right now the system is a patchwork of laws that have been passed over the last 15, 20 years. And one of the biggest problems tends to be the incredible backlog created by the small number of visas. For example, if Kathleen, if you were from originally from, say, Egypt, and you became a U.S. citizen, and you wanted to bring over your brother, who is in possibly a bad political situation in Egypt, if you filed for your brother and you're a U.S. citizen, it's a 12 to 20-year wait for that brother to come into the United States. Or here in Atlanta, Georgia Tech puts out a large number of folks with graduate degrees from India, from China. Somebody graduates, say, from Georgia Tech, #1 in the class, and a company wants to hire them here, an engineering company, an IT company. It's a 7-year wait for that person to be able to get a green card. And then you have to figure out, well, what do you do in those 7 years? Well, one of the things the Obama administration is talking about doing is really streamlining the employment immigration area, so that if companies want to hire folks, they've tried to find U.S. workers and can't, that it'll really streamline the situation. We have about 300,000 foreign students in the United States at any given time, yet we only give out 50,000 visas per year to individuals with college degrees. So we're educating 240,000 people a year that we can't provide visas for, and that then go overseas and compete against us.
Wow, I had no idea. That's amazing. And you're right. Here we are educating them to become our competition. And that just seems crazy, but so true. And you're talking about numbers that are so large. I can see how it could become a problem. And I can see how we are definitely in need of people like you. Now, you know, adoption is very near and dear to my heart. And I know that from an adoption perspective, so much focus is put on the Brad and Angelina stories of the world, you know, going overseas and rescuing a child from a different country. What are some of the things, if there's a member that's out there that's considering adopting someone from a different country, what are some of the things that you might want to share with them that they just might want to ponder a little bit, or talk to you about, you know, further that you have found are challenges when adopting overseas?
In terms of adopting overseas, it's such an intricate dance that if you make even one misstep, you can really jeopardize the situation of your child. And folks going into international adoption situations are just extremely good-hearted. I mean, they're trying to bring a child from a bad situation into the land of opportunity. And if they make one innocent mistake, they can completely jeopardize the green card for the child. There are a small number of attorneys that really specialize in international adoptions. And I really recommend anytime you're considering it, you want to make sure that you're with them. I had a case that I referred to a friend of mine who does those adoptions, and a couple had come in and they had adopted a child in Russia a number of years ago, and they never did what's called a domestication of a foreign adoption. So they had not adopted the child here in the United States. Well, the Russian authorities went in and they reversed the adoption. And by reversing the adoption, the child no longer was legally adopted, and Russia actually was making efforts to have the child returned to Russia. And again, there was no valid adoption here in the U.S. It really became a very difficult situation.
What type of cases do you find yourself most frequently involved in? Like, is there anything, area specialty that you spend most of your time working with people and helping people?
With immigration, it tends to be family immigration, and it tends to be folks that really have married somebody, have a parent that they want to bring over, or a brother or a sister that they want to bring over from a bad situation, and it just becomes very difficult to get them to understand the complexity of the application process, how long it's going to take. I mean, you just have to keep in mind, when you're deeply in love with somebody, be it your parent, your spouse, and you're told that you have to wait a year to bring them over, frequently you don't accept that, and you try and do it in another way that can get them banned permanently from coming to the United States.
Wow, you know, and I know we talked before about minors with maybe criminal charges against them. How is that something that can really affect whether or not they can stay in the United States or they can live here permanently?
Yeah, there are a lot of misconceptions among the non-immigration legal community about what happens with a criminal conviction. A lot of folks think that, well, if you simply are sentenced to less than a year in jail, it's no problem. Or we'll have somebody 19 years old, they stole a sign as a fraternity prank, and they'll just plead guilty real quickly, first offender status, and then it's wiped off their record. Well, what many of these folks don't realize is it's wiped off the record in terms of how the state views it, but in terms of federal immigration, it's still considered a conviction, and it can get them deported. I've had a number of clients that have applied for citizenship on their own. They indicated they were never arrested because they have documents from the state saying the record their criminal record has been wiped clean. And then when they get to citizenship situations, not only do they find citizenship is being denied, but they're being put into deportation proceedings.
Wow. Is there any other advice or suggestions that you feel is important to share with our members that may have loved ones overseas or may fall in love with somebody while they're at college or while they're here visiting the sunny Florida?
Well, I think the best advice is to make sure that you do it correctly. Make sure that you don't try and cut corners. I frequently tell my clients that immigration is funny. Frequently you can commit a major crime and you can end up coming to the United States and staying anyway. But if immigration feels you've lied about absolutely anything, it can bar you from the United States for life. For example, I had a client come in just this afternoon, and he came in, he got his green card a year ago through marriage to a U.S. citizen. He came in a couple weeks ago through the Atlanta airport, and they started asking him, well, when you came in 2 years ago, and then you got married three months later, when you came in as a tourist, did you come in intending to marry your wife and stay here? And luckily he said no. He said, I came here, we had dated before, and we didn't decide to get married until after I came. Had he answered that differently, he would have been put into deportation proceedings. So whenever you're dealing with immigration, you have to recognize it's not the kind of thing you want to do on your own. There are serious pitfalls to mistakes and errors that you can make, and you may as well get professional advice on it. It just makes life so much easier for you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing. And one last question I have before we end the segment today, but can you share with us one of the most, I know you can't reveal names or stories or anything like that, but can you share with us one of the most difficult cases that you've ever been affected with or help, or challenging cases that you've ever experienced?
It was a little bit out of my area. Again, I tend to have a business and a family-based immigration. But I had a client come in about a year ago, and they had a young 21-year-old Chinese boy with them who was severely mentally and physically disabled. He'd been educated in China. His entire education was spent drugged by the school system, in a diaper, soiling himself, couldn't count, couldn't spell, had no skills. His parents sent him to the United States. They were very wealthy industrialists, and they sent him here with the hope that he could get enrolled in school, that he could get some kind of a medical visa. The family that was caretaking him brought him to me to find out about that within a month of when he had come. And what I really explored with them was what had happened to him in China really amounted to persecution based on the fact that he was severely physically and mentally disabled. Myself and a couple of interns from the law school I teach at were able to work on the case, and we were really able to build a case showing that he had in fact been deprived of so many basic human rights in China that it really amounted to Chinese government persecution based on, or at least tolerance of persecution, and he was allowed to stay here. Just as an example of the changes in him, he came into the office at one point, was talking to the two interns, and he was very proud, and he said it in Chinese, to ask to count. After an entire formal education until age 21 in China, he couldn't count to 10 in Chinese, couldn't name the days of the week. After only 6 months in the United States in a school that his parents were paying for, he was able to count to 10 and name the days of the week. And luckily, by having asylum granted for him, he'll be able to live a life here of relative freedom and independence versus really just a life of persecution in China. It was just a really rewarding case to have worked on.
I think that's awesome, and it really shows your spirit of integrity and your heart, and I think that's amazing because you are helping people fall in love with America by making a difference in their lives, and I think that's so important. And that's part of why I wanted you on the show today, and that's part of why I wanted all of our wonderful members to meet Mr. Rosen, because there are people that are out there that can help, and it can begin with you. It can begin with you just helping educate other people on their options. So if you know of somebody that is struggling with somebody that has a family member out of seas, if they're struggling with a situation that they don't know where to go and they don't know what to do, just know that there is a wealth of members and a wealth of knowledge within our membership that you can connect with those people. You can call our corporate office anytime, and I can help you connect with those people because just like Mr. Rosen helped a young man from China, I'm sure he's helped dozens and dozens more, and he can help someone that you know and you love too.